If you're here, maybe it's because your mind has been spinning faster than the world today. You've tried closing your eyes. You've adjusted the pillow. You've counted a few imaginary sheep. But somehow, your thoughts still wander. Don't worry. You're not alone. And you don't need to force anything now. Just let yourself be here. Let your breath find a slower rhythm. Let your body soften, and let the rest of the world begin to fade. Tonight, we're not rushing through facts. We're not cramming dates or memorizing names. Tonight, we slow everything down. Imagine this: a gentle breeze through sheer curtains, the warm scent of olive oil and beeswax candles, the soft flicker of firelight across marble columns. You are safe. You are still. And the only thing you need to do is listen. You're about to step back in time, not to study, not to conquer, not to lead armies or recite speeches, but to witness what even the great Julius Caesar did when the night fell. He slept. Or, at least, he tried. In this story, we won't focus on his battles. We won't list his victories. We'll simply walk beside him as he leaves behind the noise of the Senate, sheds his armor of glory, and prepares for the one thing no emperor can command: rest. So take a deep breath. One more. Slower this time. And let go of your shoulders. Let go of tomorrow. Let go of the to-do list that snuck into your mind just now. You're safe. You're here. And the night is just beginning. The city of Rome is winding down. The sky above is soaked in amber, a final golden breath before night settles in. You walk along a cobbled path, your sandals tapping softly against the worn stones. Each step echoes gently through narrow alleys. The chatter of the marketplace has faded. The smell of baked bread and roasted herbs still lingers in the air, but now it's mixed with something else: lavender oil, old marble, and the scent of evening. The wind is warm, but faint. A hush blankets the streets. You pass a group of temple priests walking in silence, their robes whispering as they glide. Cats stretch lazily along the stone walls, eyes half closed, already dreaming of fish and warmth. And then you see it, rising beyond the curve of the road, a structure carved from moonlight and ambition. The private residence of Julius Caesar. The palace doesn't shout its presence. It doesn't need to. Its silence is its signature. 2 guards stand on either side of the entrance. One of them nods. The other is trying not to fall asleep. His spear tilts forward, then rights itself, like his body forgot it was on duty. The heavy bronze doors open with a gentle creak, not dramatic, just enough for you to step inside and leave the world behind. Immediately, the air shifts. It's cooler, still, as if time itself slows at the threshold. You're surrounded by a hush that feels sacred. Like entering a temple, but softer. A hallway stretches before you, lined with oil lamps, each one casting a slow, dancing light. The walls are painted with stories, frescoes of gods and mortals, of victories and funerals, of stars and serpents. The colors have faded with time, but the emotions remain. Their eyes, though motionless, seem to whisper things you almost understand. Your feet move over a floor of mosaic tiles, swirls of blue and green, waves and dolphins, patterns that seem to shift beneath your steps like water. The further you walk, the deeper the quiet becomes. Even your breath seems to soften as the palace welcomes you in. In the distance, a fountain murmurs. Its voice is low, like a lullaby spoken only to marble. You pass through another archway, this one wrapped in climbing ivy, its leaves brushing against your arm like a blessing. To your left, a garden flickers with torchlight. Olive trees stand like old friends, their shadows long and restful. You pause at a corner where a single servant tends a lantern, trimming the wick with delicate care, as though adjusting the light of a star. He does not look up. You are invisible here, but not unwelcome. The corridor bends, and at its end, a curtain of deep red, embroidered with golden thread, glows as if lit from within. It sways gently, as though breathing. You take a breath of your own and pull it aside. And there he is, not the Caesar of the Senate, not the conqueror of Gaul, but a man, a tired man, alone in his private quarters, bathed in the honeyed glow of torchlight. The room is large, but not overwhelming. Marble columns support a ceiling painted with constellations, now dimmed by the soft flicker of oil flames. A bronze incense burner lets out a slow spiral of smoke that drifts lazily toward the ceiling, then disappears. The scent is warm and ancient. It smells like cedar, like crushed leaves, like sleep. You take a few quiet steps forward. The sound of your movement is barely more than a sigh. To your left, a low table with a few scattered scrolls, a half-eaten fig, and a goblet of wine resting on its side, like it gave up halfway through. To your right, a servant asleep on a stool, his head tilted back, mouth slightly open, still holding the handle of a feather fan that now moves only with the breeze. You feel no need to speak. There is nothing to announce. You are not a guest. You are a presence, a quiet witness to the hour when even emperors grow small. The bed is wide, draped with linen that catches the firelight. Its surface looks untouched, but you know it's been prepared with care. A warm blanket folded at the edge. A sprig of mint placed near the pillow to calm the breath. Outside the open window, a nightbird sings once, then falls silent. Caesar does not move. His eyes are half closed. He breathes slowly, as if waiting for the night to take him into its arms. You remain still, and the room, the palace, all of Rome, waits with you. You stay still, for a long moment. The room where you found Caesar feels like the heart of a great sleeping animal. It pulses with warmth and silence, as if every wall remembers stories it will never tell aloud. But tonight, you're invited to wander, to explore this place that few ever saw without ceremony. Not the palace of parades, but the home behind the title, the private world of a man who ruled everything, yet still needed to rest. You turn and step back into the corridor. The curtain closes behind you, muffling the flicker of light from Caesar's chamber. Now, the palace opens wide before you. You begin your quiet walk. The hallway stretches long and solemn, its tiles colder here. The air shifts, not unfriendly, just older. To your right, a marble pedestal holds a bronze oil lamp. Its flame flickers like a heartbeat. A small moth circles it once, then disappears into the dark. You pause at a niche in the wall, where an aged mosaic depicts a lion lying beside a shepherd. A symbolic dream, perhaps, or a moment of imagined peace in the midst of power. Then, just ahead, an archway opens. On your left, the Atria Lucida, the Chamber of Light. You step inside slowly. The floor is a starburst mosaic, sun rays, golden tesserae, and blue sky pieces arranged in perfect radial harmony. At the center, a circular skylight opens above, moonlight now pouring through it like soft silver milk. Torches line the walls, but they remain unlit. The room glows solely by what the night offers, and in that soft light you see them. Statues, tall, solemn, some draped in robes, some broken at the neck, arranged in quiet conversation around the chamber. Juno, Mars, Venus, their eyes carved deep, their mouths uncertain. Not the gods of victory here, but the gods of waiting. One statue leans ever so slightly, a fault in its base. It looks as though it might speak, but never will. You walk among them slowly. Each one has a basin at its base, filled with water, or wine, or dried roses curled at the edges. One statue wears a crown of olive leaves. It wasn't sculpted that way. Someone placed it there recently. You wonder who? A servant? Caesar himself? A visitor in secret? The scent in the room is ancient and soft, dust, old oil, and something floral, like forgotten prayers. You remain a moment longer, and then return to the corridor. This time you go right. Down a narrow passage where the air thickens slightly, cooler, more intimate. Here the walls are lined with engraved bronze plates, each bearing a name, a date, a word in Greek or Latin you can't quite decipher. You stop in front of one. It reads simply, Somnus venit sicut umbra. Sleep comes like a shadow. You move on. At the end of the corridor, a wooden door waits, simple, unpainted, unimpressive, if you didn't know where it led. You open it gently. Inside is the Garden of Stillness. It is not large, just 4 olive trees in a square courtyard surrounded by stone. Between them, benches carved from limestone, worn smooth by time and thought. A fountain murmurs in the center. Its water isn't clear. It's slightly green, rich with the scent of moss and memory. A single oil lamp burns beside it, its flame low, steady, without movement. You walk between the trees. The leaves whisper above your head, catching small breaths of wind that pass through the open ceiling above. There's no sound of birds, no insects, only the water, and the sound of your own soft steps. You pass one of the benches. Its seat is slightly warmer than the others, as if someone had just risen moments before. On it lies a small clay cup, with traces of something herbal inside. Sleep tea? Opium? Something older? You don't need to know. You sit for a while, not to think, but simply to be. And for the first time tonight, it feels like your own breath matches the rhythm of the palace, as if your heart has slowed to the beat of ancient marble. Eventually, you rise. Beyond the garden is a narrow arch curved like a smile. It leads to the scroll room, a place where words are stored, not to be read, but to be remembered. You open the door, and you enter silence. The door creaks gently as you enter the scroll room. The scent here is unlike the rest of the palace. It carries dust and beeswax, old parchment, and pine oil rubbed into the shelves. You breathe it in slowly. It smells like silence, but a silence that once held words. The room is circular, lined with cedar shelves that climb to the ceiling. Scrolls rest in clay tubes, some sealed with wax, others left open, their edges curling, soft and yellowed with age. There's no labeling system, only instinct. You run your fingers across a row of scrolls. One slips forward slightly, as if it had been waiting for your touch. On a nearby table, a parchment lies open. Its ink is faded, but one line remains clear. No empire lasts forever, but a rested mind sees clearer than a triumphant one. Beside it, a small oil lamp and a shallow bowl of rosemary leaves now dry and crumbling. You sit for a moment in the corner, cushions of faded red, the fabric thinning from years of quiet readers. A cup rests nearby, cold mint tea half sipped. The light flickers, and in that flicker, you begin to feel the palace moving beneath you, not in stone or structure, but in memory. When you rise, your body feels slower, looser, like you've left something behind. You follow a side passage. Here, the air becomes warmer. The scent changes again. Steam, marble, olive oil. You step into the private baths. It's quiet, but alive. Vapor drifts in soft columns. The walls are made of polished green marble veined with silver, like rivers frozen mid-flow. The pool in the center is still, so still it mirrors the ceiling. At its edges, bronze sculptures pour a thin stream of warm water from conch shells, the sound barely more than a murmur. You dip your fingers in the water. It's the exact temperature of the body at rest. On a stone ledge, a folded white cloth, and a pair of worn leather sandals. Someone bathed here not long ago. Maybe Caesar, maybe someone forgotten. Above the water hangs a single lantern. Its flame is dim, but it reflects a dozen times in the ripples, small golden suns dissolving into sleep. You linger by the pool, letting the warmth rise around your shoulders before continuing down a passage hidden by a hanging tapestry. This is the Whispering Corridor. Long, narrow, gently curved so you never see the end. The walls are painted but not with triumphs. These are quiet scenes. A boy releasing a dove, a woman kneeling by a river, an old man tending a single rose. The colors are faded, but the feelings remain. The floor here is soft beneath your feet, a layer of ancient carpet worn thin but still intact. It hushes your steps until your footsteps feel like they've disappeared entirely. Somewhere in this curve, you hear something, not quite words, a soft, distant echo, like someone remembering aloud. But there is no one here. At the end of the corridor, a heavy wooden door. You open it slowly and step into the nocturnal library. It smells of cedarwood and lamp oil with a faint hint of lavender. The shelves are lower here, and the room is small, like a secret kept only for sleepless nights. Every drawer is labeled with a single word: fears, dreams, moments, regret, hope. Some are empty. Others hold pebbles, scraps of cloth, rings, feathers. It's not a library of knowledge, but of memory. In the center of the room, a large sand timer, flipped upside down. The sand has already fallen, but no one reset it. You sit for a moment. There's nothing to read, only to feel. And then finally, you rise once more. There's one final chamber. A stone arch leads you to it. No guards, no curtains, just an open space. You enter the Chamber of Silence. There's no furniture except for a single cushioned seat at the center. Its linen is pale gray, undecorated but perfectly folded. The walls are bare, the ceiling lost in shadow. There's no sound here, not even the breath of the palace. It is a space untouched by power, untouched by voice. You sit in the center of it. And in that stillness, there is something holy. You remain, not thinking, not dreaming, only resting. And when you rise again, you feel as if the palace itself has lowered its voice, and the night has made room for sleep. Now, you're ready to return. To him. To Caesar. You return through the corridors of the palace, but now they feel different. Not larger, not smaller, just quieter, as if the walls have exhaled, as if the palace itself is preparing for sleep. The garden is behind you, the baths, the scrolls, the whispers. They remain in your memory like fading scent trails, still warm, but dissolving. Now you approach the same crimson curtain. It hasn't moved. It waits, like a breath held still. You lift it again, and enter. The chamber is dimmer now. The torches are burning lower, their flames short, lazy, curling inward. The stone walls glow softly, bathed in hues of bronze and dusk. Caesar is still there, but something has shifted. He lies not like an emperor, but like a man remembering his own weight. His tunic has loosened at the collar. His sandals have been placed neatly at the foot of the bed. His hands, once symbols of command, now rest one atop the other, folded at his chest, as if holding on to a quiet he doesn't want to break. His eyes are open, but barely, not watching, just present. Still awake, but untethered. You take a few steps closer, and the room seems to soften around him. The marble feels warmer, the air thicker, as if his stillness has become the room's rhythm. A servant sits near the door, reading a scroll by a dying flame. He doesn't look up. He knows this moment is not his. You look at Caesar again. The lines on his face are not of war, but of thought, of wondering, of waiting. He is not speaking, but somehow you hear him. His silence says, "This is who I am," when no one watches. "This is the weight I cannot share." The torchlight dances on the contours of his features. Nose slightly curved, lips pale and closed but not tense, cheeks drawn not by age, but by the pull of thought. The wrinkles on his forehead are not from frowning, but from years of watching the world refuse to quiet. There's a table beside his bed. On it, a candle half melted, a cup of grape juice, untouched, and a polished stone with a Latin word carved in its center, pax, peace. Beside the stone, a small bronze dagger, clean, untouched, a symbol, not a weapon. You watch as his chest rises and falls, slow, steady, like the tide of a forgotten sea. He does not glance your way, but you know he feels your presence, not as a guest, but as a mirror. A soft breeze moves through the window. It lifts the edge of the curtain and lets in the scent of nighttime earth, carried up from the gardens below. Along with the whisper of olive leaves and the hush of distant waves from the unseen shore, you close your eyes for a moment and imagine what he sees when he closes his, not battles, not Rome, but a field, a child, a mountain, a stream, a single olive tree with golden leaves that shimmer in the late sun, and under that tree, a shadow of who he used to be, laughing, unburdened, still whole. Caesar breathes again, longer this time. You watch as his fingers twitch slightly, not in command, but as if they are remembering something. The touch of another hand, the edge of a letter never sent, a time when power was not yet armor. Maybe a dream has arrived, or a memory, or both. You walk toward the back of the chamber. There, behind a lattice of woven reed, is a small alcove with cushions stacked in a crescent, the kind of place a confidant might wait, or a child might curl up with a story. You sit, not to leave, but to remain close, to share in the silence of a man unguarded. No commands, no masks, no titles, only the sound of the night's breath moving through stone and soul alike. You look again at him, and suddenly, you do not see a figure of power. You see a tired man who has walked too long, held too much, remembered more than he wanted to, and finally allowed himself to rest, not forever, just for now. The torch sputters. You hear a soft, accidental sound, the murmur of linen shifting as Caesar turns slightly in his bed. One hand slips off his chest, resting loosely by his side, palm open, as if releasing something. And then, stillness again. The candle wax spills over the edge. The flame bends. The night deepens. And you remain, as the witness to the moment when even empires sleep. Time stretches inside the chamber, not like a thread being pulled, but like a lake freezing over, layer by delicate layer. You sit as you have been, still, breathing slowly, letting your presence dissolve into the stillness of this place. It no longer feels like a room. It feels like a pause in the world, like the breath the gods take before speaking a man's fate. The light has changed. Where before the torches warmed the walls, now shadows have crept up from the floor, climbing like ivy, softening every edge. The marble has dulled, its sharp reflections now blurred, like memories seen through tears or through dreams. Beside the bed, the small flame of a single candle flickers. Its glow is low, barely enough to reveal Caesar's form beneath the linen, but it is enough. You can see his face, and more than that, you can feel the gravity around it. The silence has grown thick, not heavy, but reverent. Caesar lies still, his breathing slow, deliberate, almost sacred. His body has begun to surrender, not in a fall, but in a gradual unbinding, as if the soul is loosening its grip on what it once ruled. His eyelids nearly closed, his mouth parted just slightly, allowing the smallest threads of air to pass between the words he no longer needs to speak. He does not move, and yet so much is happening within him. This is not rest, it is transition, a shift from being to remembering, from command to echo. You rise gently. The floor beneath your feet is cold, but the chill feels grounding, a reminder that this moment is real and rare. You walk closer, carefully, as if you might wake a mountain. There, on the side table, the stone marked PAX still rests, but now, beside it, you notice something new, a small wooden carving, worn at the edges. The figure of a bird, maybe a dove, its wings folded inward, as if asleep. You wonder if it was carved by Caesar's hand, late at night, when the empire grew too loud, and only silence remained to speak to. You reach out, but stop just short of touching it. Some things are meant to remain untouched. Some symbols speak louder in stillness. You turn your gaze back to him. His chest lifts, then settles, each breath longer between. His hands lie at his sides now, uncurled, no longer grasping scrolls or reins or swords, only linen. You think of all the hands he has shaken, all the fates he has sealed, and how now his hands have become as innocent as a child's. The silence shifts again. You don't know how, but you feel it. Something is leaving, or arriving, or becoming neither. Perhaps it is the soul, or perhaps it is history itself folding inward into the body of a man who no longer needs to be remembered. You glance toward the far wall. A tapestry hangs there, one you hadn't noticed before. It depicts a field of wheat, a crescent moon, and a figure lying in the grass. Not dead, just dreaming. You understand now why it hangs here. It is not art, it is prophecy. You take another step back. The air has cooled, but it doesn't feel lonely. It feels like the room is finally exhaling after centuries of holding its breath. Caesar's body sinks deeper into the mattress, not physically, spiritually, as if his identity, his name, his story are all peeling away, layer by golden layer. There is no crown, no laurel, no robe, only the shape of a man, and even that is starting to fade. Outside, somewhere in the distance, a dog barks, then silence, the kind of silence that wraps around the bones, presses softly on the eyes, and teaches the body how to sleep. You sit again, your body heavy now, as if the weight of all you've witnessed has been sewn into your skin. You glance toward the curtain. It no longer feels like a barrier, but a veil, and beyond it, the rest of the world. Unaware that its ruler has become a breath, you close your eyes, not in sleep, but in reverence, and behind your lids you see not Rome, not Caesar, but a quiet place, a valley, a path that bends toward no destination. You let yourself imagine that somewhere along that path, the man you've just watched surrender tonight is walking barefoot through the grass, a smile on his face, his hands empty, his eyes finally at peace. And maybe, if you walk slowly enough, you'll catch up to him there. But not yet. Now. You rest. The room was already quiet. But now it begins to prepare for silence. There is a difference. A stillness before rest, and the stillness that invites rest in. The chamber, vast and round, begins to dim by design. A servant extinguishes one torch at a time, his movement deliberate, as though each flame is a thought being released from the emperor's day. He walks barefoot to muffle even the possibility of sound. The light recedes, not all at once, but in slow, ceremonial retreat, like shadows peeling back the layers of a stage. What remains is soft. A single bronze oil lamp by the bedside, its reflection trembling in a silver tray filled with water and laurel leaves. Each flicker dances across the marble like a last echo of daylight. Julius Caesar sits on the edge of a wide divan. His posture is neither regal nor fatigued. It is emptied, not of dignity, but of demand. Before him, two servants wait in silence. One holds a folded robe of deep indigo. The other, a shallow wooden bowl filled with warm, perfumed water, its surface rippling with drops of oil, frankincense, myrrh, and rose. Caesar lifts his right hand. The signal is small, almost imperceptible. The servant closest to him steps forward. He begins with the removal of the rings, gold, inset with amethyst and garnet, symbols of rank and conquest. Each ring is taken off gently, as though detaching weight from memory. Next comes the unclasping of the fibula, the metal brooch that secures the crimson cloak to his shoulder. Its release feels symbolic, a loosening of power from flesh. The cloak slides down his arm, landing in folds like crimson silk, spilling over time itself. The belt follows, soft leather, worn smooth by years of wear. No longer wrapped around victory, but returned now to rest. He stands. His tunic, once white and pressed at sunrise, now bears the soft creases of a day lived fully, a day spoken, written, bled. One servant steps behind him, removing the final layer, the sandals. Each strap untied in silence, each foot lifted with reverence. There's no shame in bareness here. His feet touch the floor like roots finding earth again. He steps forward into the ritual bath. Not submerged, not a Roman bath of echoing halls and public marble, but a shallow basin of warmth, steam, and intention. Water is poured, not in haste, but slowly, over his shoulders, down his back, across his forearms. The scent fills the air, smoke and petal, earth and light. One servant pours. The other dries with woven linen, dabbed gently rather than wiped. Each motion carries with it a silence older than language. A reverence not for Caesar the ruler, but for the man beneath the armor of expectation. Once dry, he's offered the indigo robe. He does not rush to take it. He breathes first, and in that breath, a release. He slips it over his shoulders. Its weight is soft, like night falling around him. He walks slowly toward the bronze mirror on the far wall. A candle has been lit behind it. His reflection is not clear, not detailed, but that is the point. In the mirror he sees a blur of light, the impression of a man, not the memory of a god. He studies himself, no longer with scrutiny, no longer with judgment, but with quiet recognition. He touches his jaw. The skin is warm, the breath steady, the eyes tired, but not empty. Behind him, the servants remain still. They will not speak unless spoken to. They will not move until dismissed. But Caesar does not speak. Instead, he lifts a scroll from the nearby pedestal, one he chose earlier, not for politics, not for philosophy, but for softness. A passage from an old poem, something about sleep and olives and mothers waiting by the fire. He carries the scroll back to the bed. The sheets have already been turned. A small pillow rests against the headboard. A cup of warm milk, scented with honey and herbs, sits untouched on the bedside table. He sets the scroll aside for now, and instead sits once more. The robe flows around him like smoke. The candlelight cradles him. He closes his eyes for a moment. Not to sleep, not yet, but to listen, to the sound of dripping water from the ewer, to the hush of distant wind beyond the stone, to the hum of his own breath, no longer commanding legions, but returning to rhythm. The flame does not flicker. It dances, small, steady, like a heartbeat seen from afar. Its glow casts long, golden fingers across the marble floor, touching the hem of Caesar's robe, brushing against the worn scroll he left unfolded, and finally climbing the folds of the bed where he now lies. The chamber breathes. Not metaphorically, but truly. There is a presence in this stillness, a pulse beneath the silence, as though the walls themselves were inhaling the last remnants of the day. Julius Caesar has not yet closed his eyes, but he no longer looks at anything. His gaze drifts just beyond the ceiling. Above him, curved stone, painted faintly with constellations, worn by years of candle smoke and humid Roman nights. The stars overhead do not match the sky outside. They are older, a map of myth, tales from before the Republic, before the eagle, before the name Caesar meant more than a family line. His breath is even now, slower than before. Like the sea at night, long after the ships have docked, and no one remains to disturb the waves. Beside him, the cup of warm milk sits untouched. Its steam now only a memory, but the scent lingers, faintly sweet, with a hint of clove and laurel. A servant, having returned only briefly, places a second pillow near the headboard. The motion is quiet, practiced, like someone tending to sacred ground. Then, as though performing the last movement of a ritual, he places a small wax tablet on the nightstand, closed and tied with twine. It holds no command, no strategy, just a note written earlier that day, meant for no one in particular. On it, 3 words, "Let it be." No seal, no title, just intention. The servant withdraws, and now the room belongs to night. Caesar slowly lies back. His spine sinks into linen, his shoulders adjusting beneath the robe's weight, now no longer worn, but absorbed. His hand rests near his chest, not clenched, not open, but relaxed, as though holding the echo of something once important. The silence grows deeper, not because the sound has changed, but because the listener has. He blinks once, twice, then lets his eyes close. No tension, no hesitation, only gravity finally allowed to take him. His mouth is slightly parted, breath slipping in and out like wind through a broken temple window. The candlelight glows dimmer, not from the flame, but because your own perception begins to shift. It's as though the room is fading around him, edges softening, shadows rounding into softness. The bed becomes the horizon, the linen becomes the shoreline, and his body, a boat drifting slowly away. You can almost see the dreams beginning to rise. They come not as images, but as feelings. A quiet garden, a coin falling into a fountain, the sound of his mother's voice on a warm afternoon that never happened but feels truer than memory. You watch him breathe. Each inhale, deeper into elsewhere. Each exhale, less tethered to here, and you begin to wonder, does the emperor know he is sleeping? Or does he believe even now that he still governs something? Perhaps he does. Not a city, not an army, but the boundary between waking and dreaming, that final province no sword can claim. You look once more at the scroll. The words are still visible, but you no longer feel the need to read them. You already know what they say. Something about returning, about letting go, about the sea. You remain seated, your body still, but not rigid, heavy, but not tired, held by the room, by the hush, by the presence of a man no longer being a man. He is a shape now, a breath, a name returned to the wind. And then, the final detail. From somewhere outside, far down the hall, past 2 arches and a curtain of woven reeds, comes the softest sound, a night bird, calling once, not mournful, not joyful, just present. It does not wake him. It does not change anything. But it marks the moment where the day has fully died, and night is not coming, but has come. And in that knowing, you, too, begin to drift, not into sleep just yet, but into the space before it, where thoughts have no urgency, where memory becomes mist, and where the presence of peace wraps around you like the robe around the emperor's shoulders. And perhaps, just before you lose awareness, you imagine Caesar, alone in his dream, walking barefoot through an orchard, unburdened, unnamed, and utterly asleep. There is no more story now, only breath, only the quiet rhythm of existence, barely noticed, but gently pulsing beneath everything. Not Caesar's breath, not the world's, only yours. In and out, in and out. Each exhale carries a weight you didn't know you held. Thoughts, expectations, the need to be anything at all. They fall away, not with force, but with consent. Like leaves agreeing to let go of the branch. There is no pressure now, no right posture, no right thought. Everything you are is welcome here, even if it's fading. The room that held your imagination until now begins to dissolve. The bed becomes cloud-like, or maybe water. The walls soften, no longer stone but feeling. There's no more need to see them. No need to remember where you are. The ceiling is gone. The torchlight is gone. The scrolls, the footsteps, the voices, they've receded like the tide. And now you are left with something simpler, truer, softer, a feeling, not quite peace, not quite emptiness, but something between the two. Let your eyes close if they haven't already. Let them rest behind the lids like wings tucked into a nest. Let your jaw loosen. Let your hands fall where they may. There is nothing to hold, not even yourself. You do not need to narrate your experience. You do not need to listen anymore. You can drift between the words, beneath them, past them. And still, you are safe. Images float in, then melt away. A hallway lined with tall windows, moonlight painting silver lines across the floor. A hand reaching toward a flame, but not burning. A garden beneath an eclipse, where shadows fall upwards. None of them stay. They don't need to. They are offerings, whispers, ways to welcome the mind into the quiet. And if a thought returns, let it. Let it appear like a fish rising toward the surface of a still lake, then dipping back into depth. You are not here to stop the mind. You are here to soften it, to let it melt, to let the edges blur until there is no beginning or end. Breathe again, not with intention, just notice. Your chest rises, like a sail filled by gentle wind, and falls, like a robe slipping from a shoulder. You may notice your body, a warmth behind your knees, the weight of a blanket you forgot was there, a coolness where your skin meets the air. Or maybe you don't notice anything at all. And that's okay, because your awareness now is less like a light and more like water, flowing into spaces you didn't even know existed. Somewhere inside you, a door opens. You don't see it. You don't even walk through. But you know it's open. On the other side, dream, memory, imagination unchained from form. And behind you, nothing you need to carry. You may hear something now, a sound not from the world, but from within. The echo of your name before language existed, the rustle of stars aligning, the lullaby of sleep itself, sung in a voice that is not voice, but home. You've done enough, it says. You've been enough. You are enough. And the night agrees. Without words, without movement, you may feel your limbs dissolving, not vanishing, but unbinding, fingers no longer curled, toes no longer needing ground, your body no longer tethered to shape. You are becoming mist, sky, silence wrapped in warmth. The breath continues, but it no longer feels like yours. It belongs to the room, to the night, to something older than thought. The world narrows now, not into darkness, but into softness, into velvet wool cloud. Time no longer flows. It hovers. It sighs. You might remember something, a face, a scent, a song, but even those begin to blur like words in water. And now, even this voice, fades. Not abruptly, but gracefully, like a candle burning itself down to the exact end of its wick. There's no need for goodbye, no need for anything more. You are already gone, and yet completely here. Sleep is not coming. It has arrived, and it will carry you now into the zoo of yourself, the sky of yourself, the silence where the world cannot reach. There will be dreams, perhaps, or maybe just warmth, stillness, a blank page you do not need to fill. Rest now, not because you earned it, not because you fought for it, but because it's yours. Always was, always will be. Sleep, float, disappear, return.